The gravel crunched beneath the tires of my 5-year-old Subaru as I turned into the long, winding driveway of the Bennett estate. It was December 18th, a Tuesday. The sky above Greenwich, Connecticut, was a slate-gray sheet of impending snow, matching the heavy, leaden feeling that had settled in my stomach the moment I left Brooklyn. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel, my knuckles turning white. Why did I still do this? Why, at 29 years old, with a thriving business and a life I had built from the ground up, did I still feel like a frightened child every time I approached this house? The mansion loomed ahead, a sprawling colonial beast of red brick and white pillars. It was dressed to the nines, just like my mother. Tasteful white lights outlined every architectural feature. Garlands of fresh evergreen draped over the railings, and 2 massive, perfectly symmetrical wreaths hung on the double front doors. It looked like a greeting card. It looked like the perfect American dream. But I knew better. I knew that inside those walls, the air was always a few degrees colder than the thermometer read. I parked my car off to the side, near the service entrance, instinctively trying to hide my embarrassing vehicle from the main view. My father, Richard, had made a comment last Thanksgiving about how my car was an eyesore that lowered the property value just by sitting there. I hadn't told them that I could have bought a fleet of Mercedes with the last quarter's profits from my company, Christina B. Designs. I drove the Subaru because it was reliable, because it was mine, and because it didn't scream for attention. That was the difference between us. My family screamed for attention. I worked for results. I grabbed my overnight bag and the large velvet-lined case containing the custom jewelry pieces I had spent the last 4 months creating. This year, I told myself, would be different. Mom had sounded so warm on the phone. "Come early, Christina," she had said, her voice lacking its usual sharp edge. "Grandma Eleanor is coming from London. We want the whole family together. We want a united front." A united front. The phrase echoed in my mind. Maybe they were finally ready to accept me. Maybe they were ready to see that their artist daughter wasn't a failure just because she didn't become a corporate lawyer or a hedge fund manager. I walked up the front steps and rang the bell. Moments later, Rosa opened the door. Her face, usually bright and welcoming, looked tight, worried. "Miss Christina," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder, "you're here early." "Hi, Rosa," I smiled, though her anxiety was contagious. "Is Mom around? I brought the samples I wanted to show her before the party." "She's in the solarium with Miss Olivia and the decorators," Rosa said, stepping back to let me in. "But," she hesitated, biting her lip, "maybe you should go upstairs and rest first. You look tired." "I'm fine, Rosa. I just want to say hello." I walked into the foyer, the scent of cinnamon and expensive pine candles hitting me instantly. It was the smell of my childhood, a scent that masked 1,000 secrets. I made my way toward the back of the house. I could hear my mother's voice, shrill and demanding, echoing from the solarium. I stepped into the doorway. My mother, Margaret Bennett, was pointing a manicured finger at a terrified-looking florist. My sister, Olivia, sat on a chaise lounge, scrolling through her phone, looking bored. Neither of them looked up when I entered. "No, no, no," Mom snapped. "I said winter white, not cream. This looks dingy. Fix it." "Mom? Olivia?" I said softly. Mom spun around, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. There was no hug, no smile. Just a critical assessment of my woolen coat and boots. "You're here," she said, as if confirming a delivery. "You're early." "I thought I could help with the setup," I said, fighting the urge to shrink, "and I brought the jewelry samples. I made those cufflinks for Dad and the brooch for you." I started to lift the case, but Mom waved her hand dismissively, turning back to the florist. "Not now, Christina. Can't you see we are in the middle of a crisis? Just put your things somewhere. And please, don't leave that dirty toolbox on my new marble console. It stains." It wasn't a toolbox. It was a handcrafted Italian leather case. "Hello to you too, Mom," I muttered under my breath. Olivia looked up, smirking. "Hey, Christine." "Still playing with beads? I hope you didn't bring any of that wire wrapping stuff for me. I have a reputation to uphold at the firm." "It's not wire wrapping, Olivia. It's high-end silversmithing," I corrected, though I knew it was useless. To them, I was just unemployed with a hobby. "Whatever," Olivia sighed, returning to her phone. "Just don't get in the way. We have real work to do." I stood there for a moment, the familiar sting of rejection pricking at my eyes. Welcome home, Christina. Before I continue my story, I just want to say thank you for being here with me. It's not easy recounting these memories, but knowing you're listening makes it easier. Please take a moment to comment down below and let me know which city you are watching from. It helps me feel connected to you. I retreated. That was my conditioned response. When the Bennetts bared their teeth, I made myself small. I carried my bag and the jewelry case, my dirty toolbox, up the grand staircase. Rosa had mentioned that I was in the blue room this year, one of the smaller guest rooms at the back of the house, rather than my childhood bedroom. I tried not to read too much into it. Mom was always reorganizing. I unpacked quickly, splashing cold water on my face to wash away the city grit and the sting of my mother's greeting. I needed to find Dad. Surely he would be different. Dad was pragmatic, yes, and obsessed with status, but he had a soft spot for me. Or so I liked to tell myself. I went down the back stairs, heading toward his study in the East Wing. As I approached the heavy mahogany double doors, I heard voices. Raised voices. It sounded like a full family meeting. I was about to knock, hand raised, when I heard my name. "Christina is turning 30 next week, Richard. We cannot keep enabling this delusion." My mother's voice cut through the wood, sharp as glass. I froze. My hand hovered inches from the brass handle. "I know, Margaret," my father's deep voice rumbled. He sounded tired, annoyed. "But she's stubborn. You know how she is. She thinks this little business of hers is actually going somewhere." "It's a lemonade stand, Dad," my brother Ethan's voice chimed in. "Ethan? I didn't even know he had arrived. Actually, it's worse. A lemonade stand makes a profit. She's just burning through potential earnings." If she had taken that job at the firm like I told her to, she'd be bringing in a salary by now. My heart began to hammer against my ribs. A lemonade stand. My business, which had just been featured in a double-page spread in Vogue, though they didn't know that, was a lemonade stand to them. "That's exactly why we need to do this intervention now," my sister Olivia added. Her voice was cool, clinical, the lawyer in her taking over. "With Grandma Eleanor here, the pressure will be absolute. Christina craves Grandma's approval more than anything. If Grandma tells her she's a disappointment, she'll fold." An intervention? My stomach churned. They were planning an ambush. "So, we are agreed?" my father asked. "At Christmas dinner, after the soup course, we present the facts." "Ethan, you have the spreadsheets?" "Got 'em," Ethan laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. I mocked up a comparison of her projected income versus a real career. I'm going to show everyone that she can't even afford her own health insurance. It's going to be brutal, but she needs to see the numbers. He was going to fake financial records to humiliate me. I paid for my own premium health insurance. I had a retirement fund that was likely bigger than his. "And once she breaks," my mother said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that I had to lean in to hear, "Richard, you pull out the power of attorney papers. We tell her that if she wants to remain part of this family, if she wants any financial support in the future, she signs control of her assets over to you for management. To teach her fiscal responsibility." "We need that signature before the 26th, my father said, urgency entering his tone. "If we don't refinance the estate by the end of the year—" "We won't lose the house," Mom snapped. "She'll sign. She always does what she's told in the end. She's weak." "Speaking of space," Olivia piped up, "can we move her stuff out of the pink room today? I promised Vanessa she could have that room when she arrives tomorrow. Plus, I need the closet space for my yoga gear." "Already done," Mom said. "I had the movers pack up her junk this morning. It's in boxes in the hallway. We'll donate it to charity after Christmas. She doesn't need those old sketchbooks and sentimental trash holding her back." My breath hitched in my throat. My childhood room. My sanctuary. The place where I had drawn my first designs, where I had cried over teenage heartbreaks, where I had kept the journals detailing every dream I ever had. They had packed it up to make room for a cousin we barely saw and Olivia's yoga mats. "It's for her own good," Dad said, the final gavel falling. "We humiliate her to save her. It's tough love. She'll thank us when she's married to a banker and living a respectable life." "Too tough love," Ethan toasted, and I heard the clinking of crystal glasses. I stood there in the hallway, the blood draining from my face. My legs felt like jelly, my vision blurred. This wasn't just a lack of support. This was a calculated execution of my dignity. They were going to strip me bare in front of our extended family, in front of Grandma Eleanor, mock my life's work, and then coerce me into signing away my legal rights. "She's weak," my mother had said. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood of the doorframe. Tears threatened to spill, hot and stinging. Everything I had done, every success I had achieved, I had kept quiet, hoping to surprise them, hoping to be humble. And they saw my humility as weakness. They saw my silence as failure. They wanted to break me. I wanted to burst into the room. I wanted to scream, to throw the heavy vase on the hallway table, to tell them exactly how much I was worth. My hand clenched into a fist, ready to pound on the door. But then something inside me shifted. It was a physical sensation, like a rubber band that had been stretched to its limit suddenly snapping. But it didn't snap into chaos. It snapped into a straight, taut line of cold steel. The tears that had been welling in my eyes evaporated. The shaking in my hands stopped. The heat in my chest turned to ice. "She's weak." The words replayed in my mind. If I walked in there now, shouting and crying, I would only prove them right. I would be the emotional, unstable artist daughter throwing a tantrum. They would gaslight me. They would say I misunderstood. They would spin it until I was apologizing to them. No, I wouldn't give them that satisfaction. I stepped back from the door, moving silently across the thick Persian runner rugs. I walked down the hallway toward the service exit. There, lined up against the wall like garbage awaiting collection, were 6 cardboard boxes. My name was scrawled on the side in Sharpie, Christina's junk. I opened the top flap of one box. Inside lay my high school yearbook, my first jewelry soldering kit, and a framed photo of me and Grandpa Arthur fishing on the lake. The glass on the frame was cracked, as if it had been tossed in carelessly. I didn't cry. I pulled out my phone and took a photo of the boxes. Then I took a photo of the junk label. Then I zoomed in on the cracked picture of Grandpa. Click, click, click. I was building a file. I walked back up the stairs to the guest room, my movements precise and mechanical. I packed my bag, which I hadn't even fully unpacked yet. I took the velvet jewelry case, the one holding the thoughtful, bespoke gifts I had slaved over for months. I zipped it shut. I checked the room to make sure I left no trace. It was as if I had never been there. Carrying my bags, I descended the back staircase again. I encountered no one. The house was big enough to hide a murder, let alone an exit. As I reached the side door, Rosa appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She saw my bags. She saw the look on my face. "Miss Christina?" she whispered, alarm widening her eyes. "You are leaving?" I looked at Rosa, the woman who had practically raised me while my mother was busy planning galas. I saw the concern in her eyes, and for a second, my mask almost slipped. "I have to go, Rosa," I said, my voice steady, devoid of the tremor that had been there an hour ago. "If anyone asks, actually, don't tell them anything. Let them figure it out." Rosa looked at me, searching my face. She had worked for the Bennetts for 30 years. She knew them, and she knew me. She nodded slowly, a silent understanding passing between us. "Vaya con Dios, mi niña," she whispered. "Go, before they see you." "Goodbye, Rosa." I walked out into the biting December air. The wind had picked up, cutting through my coat, but I didn't feel the cold. I felt lighter. I threw my bags into the trunk of the Subaru. I got in, started the engine, and didn't look back at the festive, twinkling mansion. As I drove down the driveway, passing the symmetrical wreaths and the perfect lights, I realized I wasn't leaving my home. I was escaping a prison. I drove for 20 minutes in silence before I pulled over at a rest stop on I-95. My hands were steady on the wheel. I picked up my phone and dialed the one number I knew would answer on the first ring. "Emily," I said when she picked up. "Chris, I thought you were in purgatory. I mean, Connecticut," my best friend chirped. "I was," I said. "I'm coming back to the city. Can I crash at your place? I have a plan, but I need a war room." Emily's tone dropped instantly, shifting from playful to fierce. "What did they do?" "They declared war," I said, watching the snow begin to fall against my windshield. "They just don't know it yet." Emily's apartment in Tribeca was everything the Bennett estate was not. Warm, colorful, and filled with genuine love. When I arrived 2 hours later, she didn't ask questions. She just handed me a glass of wine and pulled me into a hug that squeezed the breath out of me. "Talk," she said, sitting me down on her plush velvet sofa. I told her everything. The conversation in the study, the intervention plan, the lemonade stand, the boxes in the hall, the refinancing scheme. When I finished, Emily wasn't crying. She was pacing the room, looking ready to commit arson. "They called a 7-figure business a lemonade stand?" Emily shouted, throwing her hands up. "Christina, your net profit last quarter was more than Ethan has made in his entire life. You have a waiting list of 6 months for custom pieces. You were in vogue." "They don't know that," I said quietly, swirling the red wine in my glass. "Because you hide it." Emily stopped pacing and knelt in front of me, grabbing my hands. "You hide your success because you're afraid of making them feel insecure. You've been dimming your light to keep them comfortable, and they're using the darkness to stab you in the back." Her words hit me like a physical blow. She was right. I had played the role of the struggling artist because it fit the narrative they expected. I paid my own bills. I bought my own apartment in Brooklyn under an LLC so they wouldn't know the price, and I let them think I was scraping by. "I wanted them to love me for me," I whispered, "not for my money." "Honey," Emily said softly, "they don't love you for you, and they definitely love money. That's the problem." She stood up and walked to her desk, grabbing a notepad. "Okay, no more victim mode. You said you have a plan?" "I do." I took a deep breath, the cold clarity returning. "Dad mentioned something about the 26th. He said they need my signature by the 26th to refinance. That's my birthday." "Why would they need your signature to refinance their house?" asked, frowning. "That's what I need to find out. Dad said something about a power of attorney, but the way he said, if we don't refinance the estate." I paused, my mind racing. Why does my turning 30 matter? I looked at Emily, and the pieces started to click into a terrifying picture. "Grandpa Arthur," I said. "He died 10 years ago. I was 20. There was a trust. I always thought it was just a small college fund that Dad managed." "Christina," Emily said, her eyes widening, "you need a lawyer, a real one, not one of your dad's cronies." "I know one," I said. "Mr. Henderson. He was Grandpa's personal attorney. Dad fired him the day after the funeral, but I know he still practices in the city." I pulled out my phone. It was 7 p.m. "I'm calling him first thing in the morning," I said. "But first, I need you to help me with something else. Anything. I need to know everything about Ethan's finances. If he's presenting a fake spreadsheet about me, I want a real spreadsheet about him." Emily grinned, a wicked, sharp thing. "My cousin works in risk management at the bank Ethan uses. I can't get official records, but I can get rumors. And rumors in finance are usually true." "Do it." I leaned back against the sofa cushions. The sadness was gone, replaced by a burning need for justice. They wanted a show? I would give them a show. I looked at the velvet jewelry case sitting on the floor. "And Emily?" "Yeah?" "I need to repack the gifts." "Repack them?" "Yes," I said, a cold smile touching my lips. "They wanted me to bring value to the table. I'm going to give them exactly what they deserve. I'm not canceling Christmas. I'm just adjusting the menu." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat up with my laptop, digging through public records, old emails, and every scrap of paper I had saved over the years. I was the organized one, the one they mocked for being boring. But being organized meant I had receipts. I had emails where Mom asked for loans she never paid back. I had texts from Ethan asking me to cover his rent just for this month. They thought I was weak. They were about to find out that I was the only thing holding their house of cards together. The next morning, December 19th, the city was draped in a wet, gray slush. I sat in the leather armchair of Mr. Henderson's office in Midtown. He was an older man with tufts of white hair and eyes that had seen everything. He had always liked me. He had been the one to give me candy when I visited Grandpa's office as a kid. "Christina," he said, peering at me over his spectacles, "I've been waiting for this call for 10 years. My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "Your father," he began, folding his hands on the desk, "is a very persuasive man, but he is not a prudent one." Mr. Henderson opened a thick file on his desk. "When Arthur passed, he left a very specific will. He knew your father was loose with money. He knew your mother enjoyed a lifestyle she couldn't afford." He slid a document across the desk. It was yellowed with age. "Read Clause 4, he said. I looked down. Legalese swam before my eyes, but the core sentence stood out clearly. "Upon the death of Arthur Bennett, the title of the Bennett estate at 142 Willow Creek Lane shall pass into the Bennett Family Trust. The beneficiary of said trust is Christina Elizabeth Bennett." I gasped. I own the house?" "Technically, the trust owns the house," Henderson corrected. "But you are the sole beneficiary of the trust. However, there was a condition. Your father was appointed as the trustee, the manager, until you turned 30. He has the right to live there and the duty to maintain it. But he cannot sell it, and he cannot mortgage it against the value of the home without the beneficiary's consent once she reaches the age of majority." "But I'm turning 30 on December 26th, I whispered. "Exactly," Henderson said. "On December 26th, the trusteeship dissolves. The title transfers fully to you. Your father loses control, and more importantly, he loses the ability to use the house as collateral for his debts." "Debts?" "Christina," Henderson looked at me with pity. "Your parents are broke. They have burned through the cash inheritance Arthur left. They have taken out every loan they could. The only asset left is the house. They are currently 3 months behind on the property taxes. They need to refinance, take out a massive mortgage against the house to pay off their creditors. But no bank will lend to them because the title is about to transfer to you. It all made sense. The urgency, the power of attorney, the power of attorney. They want me to sign a power of attorney giving them control over my finances and assets, I said, my voice shaking with rage. They were going to frame it as helping me manage my failed life. If you sign a durable power of attorney, Henderson warned, they could sign the mortgage documents on your behalf. They would strip the equity out of that house, spend it, and leave you with the debt. They would bankrupt you, Christina. I sat back, feeling sick. It wasn't just humiliation. It was theft. Grand larceny disguised as parental concern. They were willing to destroy my financial future to save their country club memberships. What do? I asked. You do nothing, Henderson said, a glint of steel in his eye. Or, rather, you do not sign. On December 26th, the house is yours. You can evict them, you can sell it, you can burn it to the ground if you wish. Evict them, I murmured. The word tasted like ash and iron. I can draw up the papers, Henderson said, a notice to vacate. Given the mismanagement of the trust, the unpaid taxes are a breach of fiduciary duty. We have grounds to remove your father as trustee immediately, but waiting until the 26th makes it cleaner. Do it, I said. Draw up the papers. But don't serve them yet. I'll deliver them myself. Are you sure? Yes. I stood up, smoothing down my coat. They wanted a show for Christmas. I'm going to give them one. One more thing, Henderson said, pulling a small velvet pouch from the safe behind him. Your grandfather left this for you. He said to give it to you when you were ready to take the helm. I opened the pouch. Inside was a heavy, ancient iron key. What is this? The key to the master wall safe in the library, Henderson said. Your father has never been able to open it. Arthur never gave him the combination, but you have the key. I closed my fist around the cold metal. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Give them hell, Christina, the old lawyer smiled. I left the lawyer's office with the deed to my life in my purse, but I wasn't done. I had the shield. Now I needed the sword. I met Emily for lunch at a quiet cafe. She slid a manila envelope across the table. Her face was grim. You're not going to like this, she said. I don't expect to like it. I just need to use it. I opened the envelope. It was a dossier on Ethan, my brother, the financial wizard, the one who was going to lecture me on fiscal responsibility. He's underwater, Emily said, poking at her salad. Deep. He owes almost $200,000 to a private lender in New Jersey. That's code for a loan shark, Christina. Gambling? I asked, scanning the sheets. Sports betting and bad crypto investments. But that's not the worst part. Emily pointed to a highlighted section. Look at this transfer history. I squinted at the numbers. There were repeated withdrawals from an account labeled BFAM Pension. Is that? Mom and Dad's retirement fund, Emily nodded, or what's left of it. He's been siphoning money out of their accounts for 2 years. He has power of attorney over their accounts because he's the finance guy. He's stealing from them. I laughed. It was a dark, humorless sound. So let me get this straight. Ethan is stealing from Mom and Dad? Mom and Dad are broke and trying to steal from me, and they are all conspiring to humiliate me for being irresponsible. It's a snake eating its own tail, Emily said, and you're the only one not in the pit. I have the receipts, I said, tapping the papers. I have the proof that Ethan is a fraud. I have the proof that Mom and Dad are bankrupt. and I have the proof that the house is mine. So, what's the plan? Emily asked. You confront them now? No, I said. They want an intervention at Christmas dinner? Fine, I'll give them an intervention, but I won't be there to hear their lies. I pulled out my phone and checked the date. December 20th. I had 4 days to prepare the ultimate Christmas present. I need to buy some boxes, I said, and I need a printer. A really good printer. And I, Emily said, raising her glass, am going to order us the most expensive bottle of champagne on the menu, because you, my friend, are about to become a legend. We spent the afternoon finalizing the strategy. I hired a private courier service, one that specialized in high-security legal deliveries. I wasn't going to trust the post office with this. I also called the interventionist that Ethan had mentioned. A quick Google search revealed that Steven was just a frat buddy of Ethan's who worked in HR at a mid-sized paper company. He wasn't a financial advisor. I didn't call him to chat. I called his office to leave a message asking for his credentials for my lawyer. I knew that would spook him enough to maybe back out or at least sweat. But the main event was the boxes. I went back to my apartment in Brooklyn. I took the beautiful, handcrafted jewelry pieces out of their velvet boxes. The cufflinks for Dad, the brooch for Mom, the watch for Ethan. I laid them out on my bed. They were works of art. They were symbols of my love, and they didn't deserve them. I placed the jewelry in my own safe. Then I turned to the printer. For Dad, a copy of Grandpa's will, Clause 4 highlighted in neon yellow. Beneath it, a copy of the deed transferring the title to me on December 26th. For Mom, a high-resolution photo of my junk boxes in the hallway, printed on glossy paper, and a printout of the eviction notice draft. For Ethan, the transaction logs showing his theft from the pension fund and the record of his gambling debts. For Grandma Eleanor, I hesitated. Grandma was tough. She was the matriarch. I had always feared her judgment, but Henderson said she knew about the will. For Grandma, I put the ruby brooch I had made. It was a phoenix rising from the ashes, and a letter explaining everything. I packed the boxes. I wrapped them in the same gold paper I had used before. They looked identical. They looked like love, but they were bombs. The days leading up to Christmas were a blur of nervous energy. I didn't answer my phone. I let the calls from Mom, Dad, and Olivia go straight to voicemail. Christina, where are you? We are worried sick. Mom, sounding more angry than worried. You are being incredibly selfish, Christina. Grandma is asking for you. Olivia. Pick up the phone. We need to talk about your schedule for the dinner. I listened to them in the dark of my apartment, sipping tea, feeling a strange detachment. They weren't my family anymore. They were characters in a tragedy they had written themselves. On December 23rd, the courier arrived to pick up the package. Delivery for Christmas Eve, 7 p.m. sharp, the driver confirmed. 7 p.m. sharp, I agreed. To the dining room. Hand it directly to Richard Bennett. You got it. Watching the van drive away felt like releasing a breath I had been holding for 20 years. Now what? Emily asked. She had come over to help me pack for our trip. Now, I said, zipping up my suitcase, we go to the cabin. Emily's family owned a rustic cabin in the Catskills. It was secluded, snowy, and devoid of cell service unless you stood in one specific corner of the porch. It was perfect. We drove up on Christmas Eve morning. The world turned white around us as we ascended into the mountains. We played cheesy pop music and sang along, trying to drown out the clock ticking down in my head. 7 p.m. That was the time of the dinner. That was when the soup would be served. That was when the intervention was supposed to start. By 4 p.m., we were settled in the cabin. A fire roared in the stone hearth. We had invited a few other friends, strays who didn't want to go home to their own toxic families. Marcus, a friend from design school, and Sarah, my business manager. It was warm. It smelled of real pine and roasting chicken. There was laughter. Real laughter, not the polite, sharp tittering of a cocktail party. But as the sun went down and the sky turned deep purple, I found myself checking my watch every 5 minutes. 5:30 p.m., they would be dressing for dinner. 6 p.m., cocktails in the library. 6:30 p.m., moving to the dining room. My phone was on the table. I had full bars of signal here, thanks to a new tower nearby. I stared at it. "You don't have to answer," Sarah said gently, pouring me more wine. "Yes, I do," I said. "I need to hear it. I need to know it's done." I imagined the scene, the crystal chandelier, the fine china, Mom at the foot of the table, Dad at the head, Grandma Eleanor to his right, Ethan and Olivia, the interventionist Stephen sweating in his cheap suit. They would be waiting for me. And when I didn't show up, the anger would start. 6:55 p.m. My phone buzzed. A text from the courier. "Package delivered. Signed for by Richard Bennett." "It's time," I whispered. The cabin went silent. My friends looked at me with a mix of awe and terror. 7:00 p.m. The phone rang. The screen lit up with a picture of my mother. I took a deep breath. I picked it up and swiped accept. I put it on speaker. "Christina Elizabeth Bennett!" My mother's voice shrieked through the tiny speaker, so loud that Emily winced. "Where the hell are you? We are sitting at dinner. Everyone is waiting." I leaned back in my chair, swirling my wine. "Hello, Mother. Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas! You are ruining Christmas," she yelled. "Grandma is waiting." "Stephen is here. He came all the way from the city to see you." "To see me, or to help you ambush me?" I asked, my voice calm, steady, cutting through her hysteria. There was a pause on the line, a beat of silence. "I don't know what you're talking about," she lied. "We just wanted to have a family dinner. Why are you being so difficult?" "I'm not coming, Mom," I said. "I'm celebrating with people who actually respect me." "Respect you?" Dad's voice boomed in the background. "Give me the phone, Margaret. Christina, you get in that car and you drive here right now. This behavior is unacceptable. We have matters to discuss. Financial matters." "I know, Dad," I said. "You want me to sign the power of attorney so you can refinance the house before the 26th, because you're broke." Dead silence. The kind of silence that is heavy and suffocating. "Who told you that?" Dad hissed. "It doesn't matter," I said. "I'm not coming, and I'm not signing." "If you don't come here," Dad threatened, his voice dropping to a growl, "I will cut you off. You will never see a dime of this inheritance. I will make sure you are destitute." I laughed. I couldn't help it. It bubbled up out of me, genuine and loud. "You can't cut me off, Dad. You don't have anything to give. But I sent you something. Did the courier arrive?" "There are boxes here," Mom said, her voice trembling slightly. "We haven't opened them. We were waiting for you." "Well, I'm there in spirit," I said. "Open them. I made them special for each of you. Consider it my contribution to the intervention." "Christina, don't play games," Olivia warned. "Open them," I commanded. My voice hardened. "Start with Dad's." I could hear the rustling of paper over the phone line. I closed my eyes, picturing the scene. Dad tearing open the gold foil, lifting the lid of the velvet box, expecting cufflinks, finding paper. "What is this?" Dad muttered. "Legal papers?" I heard the shuffle of pages. "Clause 4, Dad read aloud, confusion in his voice. Then a gasp, a sharp intake of breath. "What does it say, Richard?" Grandma Eleanor's voice rang out, clear and authoritative. "It says..." Dad's voice failed him. It says the house belongs to me, I finished for him, as of December 26th, and it says that any attempt to mortgage it is fraud. You talked to Henderson? Dad choked out. I did. Keep reading, Dad. The next page is the notice to vacate. Vacate? Mom screamed. What do you mean vacate? This is my house. Not anymore, I said. Open yours, Mom. More rustling. Then a silence so profound it felt like the line had gone dead. A mirror? Mom whispered. And a picture of my room, I said. The room you threw in the trash. The mirror is so you can take a good look at yourself, Mom, because that's all you have left. You ungrateful little bitch, Ethan shouted. How dare you? Ethan, shut up and open your box, I snapped, before I send that file to your bookie in Jersey. The silence that followed my command to Ethan was the most satisfying sound I had ever heard. What is this? Ethan stammered. Page 1, I narrated, visualizing the documents. A log of withdrawals from the B-Fam pension account, totaling $142,000 over the last 18 months. Ethan? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. Is that true? Dad, no, she's forging it. She's lying. Ethan panicked, his voice pitching up. Page 2, I continued, relentless. A promissory note to Mr. Vinnie Moretti, due January 1st. You owe a lot of money to bad people, Ethan, and you were stealing from Mom and Dad to pay the interest. You thief, Mom shrieked. The sound of glass shattering followed. Someone had thrown a drink. You stole our retirement? I was going to pay it back, Ethan yelled, once I got the bonus, once we got Christina's money. So that was the plan, I said, letting the words hang in the air. Steal my inheritance to cover your crimes? Christina, Grandma Eleanor spoke again. Her voice was calm amidst the chaos. I have opened my box. I held my breath. Did you, Grandma? A phoenix, she said, and a letter. Read the letter, Grandma, I said softly. It says, Grandma read, her voice steady, that you have built a business worth $2 million a year, that you have been hiding your success to avoid making your family feel small, and that you love me, but you cannot be part of a family that abuses you. 2 million? Olivia gasped. She's lying. She makes bead bracelets. Google Christina B. Designs right now, Olivia. Check the stockists. Check the Vogue feature from November. Page 42. I heard the tapping of nails on a screen. Oh my God, Olivia whispered. It's real. Meiman Marcus carries her line. The earrings are $3,000 a pair. I'm not the failure, I said, my voice strong, echoing through the speakerphone in that dining room and filling the cabin where my friends sat in silent support. I'm the only one of you who actually built something. I'm the only one who isn't a fraud. Christina, baby! Mom's voice changed instantly. It became syrupy, desperate. We didn't know. We were just worried. If we had known you were successful, we would have celebrated you. We can fix this. You own the house? That's wonderful. We can keep it in the family. We can live here together. No, Mom, I said. You can't. What do you mean? The eviction notice is real, I said. You have 30 days from the 26th. Henderson is filing the papers on Tuesday. I'm selling the house. You can't do that to your parents, Dad roared, after everything we gave you. You gave me a complex and a bill for therapy, I said. You wanted to kick me out of my room? Fine, I'm kicking you out of the house. I'll sue you, Ethan screamed. I'll sue you for defamation. Go ahead, I said. I have the receipts, Ethan, and unlike you, I can afford a very good lawyer. Christina, please, Olivia pleaded. Where are we supposed to go? You have a job, Olivia, I said. Get an apartment, like I did when I was 22 and eating ramen. Grandma, Dad appealed to his mother, talk sense into her. She's destroying the family. She is not destroying the family, Richard, Grandma Eleanor said. She is cleaning it. You have failed as a father. You have failed as a son. And you, she directed at Ethan, are a criminal. Thank you, Grandma, I whispered, tears finally pricking my eyes, not from sadness, but from relief. I'm proud of you, Christina, Grandma said. Now hang up the phone, dear. Enjoy your Christmas. I will handle things here. Merry Christmas, Grandma, I said. Merry Christmas, my phoenix. I pressed the red button to end the call. The cabin was silent for 1 second. Then it erupted. Emily popped the champagne cork. Sarah screamed. Marcus started clapping. You did it, Emily yelled, hugging me. You actually did it. I sat there, staring at the phone. My hands were shaking, but this time it was adrenaline. I had done it. I had stood up to the giants of my childhood and realized they were just small, scared people standing on stilts. Before I tell you what happened next, because trust me, the fallout was spectacular, you have to do something for me. You guys are amazing for sticking with me through this drama. Please hit that like button and comment the number 1 below if you think I did the right thing. Knowing you're on my side gives me strength. Type 1 now. The next 2 days at the cabin were blissful, but I knew the storm wasn't over. On December 26th, my 30th birthday, the legal transition began. I woke up to a text from Mr. Henderson. It's done. The title is yours. I also had about 50 missed calls from Mom and Dad. And 1 text from Ethan. You're dead to me. We packed up the cabin and drove back to the city. I needed to meet Henderson and formally initiate the proceedings. When I arrived at my apartment in Brooklyn, there was a package waiting for me. It was from Grandma Eleanor. Inside was the key I had already seen, the key to the safe, and a note. My dearest Christina, the house is yours, but a house is just wood and stone. The real treasure is in the library safe. Your grandfather never trusted your father with it. He wanted you to have it. I am staying at the Plaza Hotel. Come see me when you are ready. Let the others rot. Love, Grandma. I called Henderson. We're going to the house tomorrow, I said. I want to inspect my property. I'll bring the sheriff, Henderson said, just in case. The next day, December 27th, I pulled into the driveway of the Bennett estate again. This time, I wasn't driving my Subaru. I had rented a black SUV. I arrived with Mr. Henderson and 2 sheriff's deputies. The holiday decorations were still up, but they looked sad now. The lights were off. I walked up to the door and used my own key, the new one Henderson had given me. The house was in chaos. There were suitcases in the hallway. Mom was screaming in the kitchen. You can't just throw us out, she was yelling at nobody, or maybe at the air. When I walked in, silence fell. Mom looked haggard. She wasn't wearing makeup. Dad was sitting at the kitchen table, head in his hands. Ethan was nowhere to be seen. Olivia was packing books into a box, looking red-eyed. Christina, Dad said, looking up. He looked 10 years older. Please, let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, Richard, Henderson said, stepping forward. You have received the notice to vacate. You have 30 days. But where will we go? Mom cried, rushing toward me. She tried to grab my hand, but I stepped back. Chrissy, please, we're your parents. You wanted to evict me from my room, I said calmly. You wanted to steal my future. You called my life a lemonade stand. We were wrong, Mom sobbed. We were just stressed. You were cruel, I said, and greedy. The audit of the trust shows you've spent nearly everything Grandpa left. Where did it go, Mom? Clothes? Parties? She looked down, ashamed. Sheriff, I said, turning to the officers, please ensure they understand the terms. They cannot remove any fixtures, furniture, or art that belongs to the estate, only personal effects. Understood, ma'am, the deputy said. I walked past them, heading for the library. I needed to see what was in the safe. Dad tried to follow me. Christina, wait! The safe! I never could open it. It's empty, probably. Stay here, Richard, Henderson ordered. I entered the library. It smelled of old paper and cigars. The massive painting of Grandpa Arthur hung over the fireplace. I moved the painting aside, revealing the wall safe. I inserted the heavy iron key. It turned with a satisfying clunk. I pulled the heavy door open. It wasn't empty. Stacks of bonds, gold coins, and a thick leather ledger. I pulled out the ledger. It was Grandpa's handwriting. For Christina, the rainy day fund, to be used only when she is free of her father's shadow. I opened the bonds. They were bearer bonds, Series I savings bonds. I did a quick mental calculation. There was easily another $2 million here, untouched, hidden from my father's grasping hands for a decade. I turned around. Dad was standing in the doorway, watching. His eyes were wide with greed. My God, he whispered. It was there the whole time? We could have been saved. No, Dad, I said, closing the safe and locking it. You would have wasted it. This isn't yours. It never was. I pocketed the key. Get out of my library, I said. Dad looked at me. For the first time in his life, he didn't see a daughter he could bully. He saw a stranger he couldn't control. He turned and walked away, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I left the house feeling drained but clean. I drove straight to the Plaza Hotel to see Grandma. She was sitting in the palm court, drinking tea, looking impeccable in her tweed suit. When she saw me, she stood up, something she rarely did for anyone. Grandma, I said, hugging her. She smelled of lavender and steel. Sit, child, she said. Tell me everything. I told her about the safe, about the bonds, about the look on Dad's face. Arthur knew, she said, sipping her tea. He knew Richard was weak. He loved him, but he knew he couldn't handle money. He saw you, Christina. He saw how you saved your allowance. How you organized your toys. He knew you were the steward of this family. I felt so guilty, I admitted, throwing them out. Don't, Grandma snapped. They have been living on borrowed time and stolen money for years. It is time they learn to stand on their own feet. Olivia will be fine. She has a career. Ethan needs jail or a miracle. And your parents, they have a pension. A small one if Ethan hasn't stolen it all. They will have to downsize. It will be good for their character. I'm selling the house, I said. I can't live there. Too many ghosts. Good decision, Grandma nodded. Sell it. Buy something that is yours. Something that makes you happy. And the bonds? Reinvest them, she said. Expand your business. Make Christina be a global empire. Rub their noses in it on every billboard in Times Square. I laughed. You're ruthless, Grandma. I'm a Bennett, she winked, and so are you. The real kind. We spent the afternoon talking about everything except my parents. We talked about art, about London, about the future. For the first time, I felt like I had a true elder, a mentor. When I left the plaza, I saw a missed call from a number I didn't recognize. I listened to the voicemail. Miss Bennett, this is Vinnie Moretti. I believe you know your brother, Ethan. He gave us your number as a reference for his debt consolidation. We'd like to have a chat. I felt a chill, but then I remembered I wasn't the weak one anymore. I called the number back. Mr. Moretti, I said, this is Christina Bennett. My brother has no authorization to use my name. I am not responsible for his debts. However, I have just forwarded his financial records, including his theft of pension funds, to the district attorney. If you want your money, I suggest you get in line behind the government. Do not call me again. I hung up. I blocked the number. I was done being afraid. The next month was a whirlwind. I listed the estate. It sold in 3 days to a tech billionaire from Silicon Valley who wanted a East Coast trophy home. The price was astronomical. After paying off the liens and the back taxes, I walked away with a significant sum. I put half of it into the trust for my future children, if I had them, or for charity. The other half I invested in my business. The eviction proceeded. It was messy. Mom called the local paper and tried to sell a sob story about her heartless daughter kicking her out in the winter. But Dee Patricia, Mom's sister, who had always hated Mom's snobbery, went on Facebook and posted the truth. She posted about the intervention plan. She posted about the room being thrown in the trash. The town of Greenwich, which loves gossip more than oxygen, turned on my parents overnight. They were social pariahs. They moved into a 2-bedroom condo in a less affluent town nearby. It was nice, perfectly adequate, but to them, it was a slum. Ethan tried to flee the state, but he was picked up on a DUI charge 2 weeks later. The investigation into the pension theft opened up. He was facing real time. Dad refused to bail him out, mostly because Dad didn't have the bail money. Olivia actually reached out to me in February. "Can we grab coffee?" she texted. I met her at a neutral Starbucks. She looked tired. She wasn't wearing her usual designer gear. "I'm sorry," she said, staring at her latte. I was jealous. You always seemed so free. I hated my job, I hated the pressure, and I took it out on you." "I appreciate the apology, Olivia," I said, "but you stood there while they planned to destroy me. You were going to take my room for yoga." "I know," she wiped a tear. "I'm moving to Boston. I got a job at a nonprofit. I need to get away from Mom and Dad. They are toxic." "They are," I agreed. "Good luck in Boston, Olivia." I didn't offer to help her financially. She didn't ask. It was a start. Spring arrived, and with it, my new life bloomed. I used the money from the bonds to buy a brownstone in Brooklyn. It had a huge garden level that I converted into my dream studio. I hired 3 new assistants. Christina B. Designs was no longer a lemonade stand. It was a powerhouse. I launched the Phoenix collection in April. It featured rubies and raw gold, inspired by the brooch I gave Grandma and the fire that had forged me. It sold out in 48 hours. One afternoon, I was working in the garden when the doorbell rang. It was a courier. Another box. I opened it cautiously. It was from Dad. Inside was the framed photo of me and Grandpa Arthur. The glass was still cracked. There was a note, scrawled in Dad's shaky handwriting. "Found this in the moving boxes. Thought you should have it. I'm sorry." I looked at the photo. I looked at the cracked glass. It was imperfect. It was broken. But the image underneath was still there. I didn't call him. I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. But I placed the photo on my mantelpiece, right next to the Vogue cover. That Christmas, the Christmas of the intervention, changed everything. It broke my heart, yes, but it set me free. I learned that blood doesn't make you family. Loyalty does. Respect does. Love does. I learned that hiding your light doesn't help anyone see better. It just leaves you in the dark. And I learned that sometimes you have to be the villain in someone else's story to be the hero in your own. I still see Emily every week. She's my sister in every way that matters. Grandma Eleanor visits twice a year, and we drink tea and plot world domination. My parents, they are living the life they can afford. They are learning, slowly, that money isn't character. I hear Mom has started volunteering at the library. Maybe there is hope for her yet. As for me, I'm sitting here in my own house, bought with my own money, writing this to you. I am Christina Bennett. I am a jewelry designer. I am a survivor. And I am finally, truly home. Thank you. Thank you for listening to my story. It's been a long journey from that cold driveway in Connecticut to where I am now. I hope my story reminds you that you are worth more than how people treat you. If you are the black sheep, remember that black wool is rare and valuable. If you are the provider, remember to provide for yourself first. And if anyone ever tries to hand you an eviction notice for your own life, remember, you hold the deed. You just have to be brave enough to read it. I'm going to go now. Emily is coming over for dinner, and we have a bottle of champagne to pop. To freedom, to truth, and to you. Thank you so much for listening to the very end. You are truly special, and I appreciate your time. Please type the letter A in the comments so I know you are one of the few who made it to the finish line. If you have any thoughts on my decision, or if you've ever had to stand up to family, please share your story. I read every single one. And don't forget to click on the next video on the screen to hear another story. Bye for now.